Good evening. My name is Bailey Roy. I'm a senior here at the Gilbert School and a member of one of the classes hosting tonight's debate. I'd like to begin by saying thank you to everyone who came out tonight. Your attendance is greatly appreciated. Before we begin, I would like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We would also like to have a moment of silence for Ken Fracasso. Ken was a lifelong resident of Winchester and a graduate of the Gilbert School. He was a selectman and former mayor. He also served as a lieutenant of Aerial Ladder Tower Company 1. Please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. The format for tonight's debate is as follows. The time to discuss each question among fellow party members will be 1 minute. One person will then answer for the group, and the time to answer each question will be 2 minutes. The time for rebuttal will be 1.5 minutes. Should any candidate wish to rebut another candidate's statement, please raise your hand and you will be recognized by the moderator. If there is no rebuttal, we will proceed with questioning. Each individual will also be allotted 2 minutes for an opening statement, and each party will be allowed closing statements. Finally, we would like to ask all candidates to speak clearly into the microphones, as this debate is being streamed live on our school's YouTube channel, TGS TV. This is thanks to the efforts of Gilbert School teacher Stephen Hodges and his students. The sound and lighting for tonight are being handled by Scott Minnerly and his theater tech class. The students asking questions tonight are Samantha Haas, Alex Cassidy, Kaden Monroe, and Jeb Leach. Now I would like to introduce our moderator, Tim Crandall.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tim Crandall, and I'm a junior here at the Gilbert School, and I'll be the moderator for tonight's debate. I'd like to inform the candidates that our timekeepers are located at the front table of the audience, and I'd also like to remind everyone here tonight about the mask laws within the state of Connecticut. It is state law for everyone in the audience tonight to wear a mask, no matter of your vaccine status. This is for the safety of everyone, including yourself. I'd like to now introduce our candidates, starting with Candy Perez, Jack Bork, Linda Grappo, Nick Teeling, Stephen Sedlak, Candace Bouchard, Jonathan Morhart, and Todd Archulowski. Each candidate will now have a 2-minute opening statement, starting with the Republican Party and then the Democrats.
Hi, I'm Candace Bouchard. I started running for office in 2013. I was first elected, and then I've served for 2 other terms after that. I've been in town for 11 years. I retired, and I came from the logistics industry after 28 years with DHL Global Forwarding. I have also been a board member with Friends of Main Street, Winchester, since 2015, and I've served as its treasurer for the last 3 years. I've served in Winchester community for multiple roles, from elected as a select person to numerous committees, including long-term planning, town manager selection, charter revision commission, civil service commission, economic development commission as liaisons. Winchester has a rich cultural history and a vision for its future. Infusing leadership with different perspectives makes our town even stronger and ensures that Winchester is on a sustainable path for success. I look forward to contributing my work as a selectman and developing ways we as a board can be more responsive to residents and focused on solving problems while setting realistic municipal budgets. I'm particularly proud of how Winchester faced the unimaginable challenge of the pandemic. Businesses in Main Street transformed their operations, community organizations, and town governments came together to help residents and businesses alike. I look forward to continuing to service the residents of the town.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan Morhart. I am a Gilbert student. I am 18, the minimum age to be running. It is truly an exhilarating experience running to be possibly your next selectman. I intend to graduate early from Gilbert, 1 semester early. I have a platform with Selectman Borchardt and Selectman Archulowski of trying to grow the grand list, improve infrastructure, and support our law enforcement. I would like to take this time to thank the audience, the candidates, the people putting this together, including Mrs. Nardine, Mrs. Soltaire, the AP Gov class, and the civics class. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Todd Archulowski. I'm seeking my 4th term on the Board of Selectmen. I want to thank the Gilbert School for hosting this event tonight and all the students for their input and their questions. Many people have asked why I'm running for a 4th term. The answer is simple. 6 years ago when I started, Winston was in a dark place. Winchester was the punchline of a joke. We're no longer the punchline of that joke, but we still have more to do. We need to continue to grow our grand list. We need to bring more activities to town for residents to do. We need to increase our tax base so we can spend more without raising taxes. We also need to support law enforcement, as Jonathan said earlier. You watch the news and every day, more and more violent crime happens in our cities, and we need to make sure that that crime and violence doesn't come to Winchester. We also need to support first responders and make sure that we stand up to Hartford for the freedoms that we are slowly losing. We have 250 years coming up, our anniversary of Winchester, and you look back at the things we have today, what's different? It seems like we've forgotten to listen to people and to talk to each other. We need to go back to communication and do what's best for the town, not what's best for a political party. Thank you.
Oh, me? Good evening, everyone. I'm Althea Candy Perez, and I'm running for my 10th term. I am proud of everything the board has accomplished these past years especially. I am also proud to be in the mayor's role while I have been able to make sure all 7 selectmen are involved in projects and also have a voice in everything that we do. I am proud that we have moved the needle forward because these things don't happen alone. Working collaboratively, we have prioritized Winston by making necessary investments in our schools and our roads, building a stable climate for business to open and succeed in town, and we have added value to the grand list, all while not raising the tax mill rate. This slate will uphold our commitment to Winston's continued growth. 6 years ago, our election slogan was "Believing in Winston." We knew the community had strong bones. We knew community members wanted a functional town and board. We knew we were at the precipice of growth as we stabilized from the theft, and we knew we needed to shift the perception to thrive and become the Winston we knew it could be. Today, looking back at our work, we see we began as a unified group of 7, and we individually made a point of collaborating together as a W instead of past party identity. We chose to be bipartisan in all we did. We made it a priority to hire a strong transformational town manager. We set 5 budgets without a mill increase while at the same time investing over $8 million in our local roads and repairs. We were successful in welcoming volunteers to boards and commissions. We added value to the grand list as we prioritized cleaning up blighted properties. We made it a point to do our work without fanfare, and most importantly, doing it as a group interested in what was best for our local community, not state or national politics. All of us showed up, and we did the work at community events and meetings to bring us where we are today. Thank you for taking the time to listen.
I'm Jack Bork. Thank you, students and staff at the Gilbert School, for creating this opportunity to meet with you tonight and for live streaming it and recording it. So for those who could not be here and for those who may catch part of it on other social media. I trust that what we say here tonight will help you make a better informed decision when you vote in our municipal election on November 2. We all have many chapters in our life. The three most important ones are the chapter where we learn, then earn, and then serve. Now, some of these chapters may overlap. I'm definitely in the serving sector now, and after 6 years as a member of the Board of Selectmen, I want to continue. During these past 6 years, our board has been unified, and while we may have questions, we have had the good of the town in our hearts in every decision. The work we have done together has advanced our town. We've attracted businesses, developers, new residents. We've upgraded our schools, reinvigorated Main Street, improved our roads, and we have just begun. I'm seeking your support so I can continue to serve as we solidify the long-term infrastructure improvement plan, professionalize our government's leadership, and execute future developments. Our town's resiliency continues because you all care. You're here tonight, and you vote. I ask for that vote on November 2nd, and for our team. It's important for our community.
Thank you. I'm Linda Grappo. I was born and raised in Winchester. I attended St. Anthony's School, and I am an alum of Gilbert. This will be the third forum I have participated in. Each time I sit here, I think about my U.S. history teacher, Mr. Nelligan, and John and Sadie Grappo, my parents. I've had the privilege of serving on the Board of Selectmen for 4 years. We have accomplished much. We work with one idea in mind, the best interest of Winchester. The emphasis on the importance of education has brought new families to our town. We have maintained a stable tax rate. We tightened our belts and we accomplished our goals. Our grand list is growing. Investors are looking at our town for development. Winchester has wonderful economic development commissioners who have enthusiasm, energy, and new ideas. Our infrastructure is taking on a new direction with a solid, workable, long-range plan. Our recently updated anti-blight ordinance takes steps to protect our neighbors who care for their property by ensuring our neighborhoods retain value, are clean and safe. A vibrant community just doesn't happen. It takes determination, hard work, and strong leadership. I will continue to do my best and work because I'm determined to make Winchester the vibrant community we can all be proud of. Again, about my U.S. history teacher and my parents. They were the ones who instilled lifelong principles and values. I listened, and I'm glad I did. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nick Teeling, and I'm very humbled to be up on this board, running for Selectman of my hometown of Winstead, Connecticut. I grew up here in Winstead, lived here my whole life of 25 years. I went to our local schools, and my parents from a very young age taught me 2 very important lessons: to work hard and take pride in your community. After high school, I took these lessons with me to Tungus Community College, where I was trying to figure out what was next for me in life. While I was there, I became inspired to get involved politically because I saw across our country and in every board, young people were just not raising their voice like they should. So I decided to do it myself, and in doing that, I ended up doing some very incredible things, like getting to work at the United States Senate and at our state capitol, focusing on constituent services to help make sure everyday people have their voice heard at every level of government. But in working these places and understanding better about how our government works, I learned that the most important, sometimes, places is your local government. It's where your voice is heard the loudest, and it's where you feel the biggest impact. So I started attending town meetings, and that's where I got to meet Mayor Perez, who for the past 5 years has been a big mentor in my life. She taught me one of the lessons that you don't learn in the classroom: what it means to be a public servant, what it means to care for your community, what it means to show up, what it means to volunteer and not expect a thank you, and above all else, what it means to collaborate and work together and not be divisive. And so when I'm knocking on doors and I'm talking to our neighbors about what I want to accomplish as selectman, I of course tell them I want to help pass an updated road plan to fix our roads and bridges and continue the progress of economic development on Main Street. But I also tell them the type of public servant I want to be, the type of public servant Mayor Perez is, and everybody on this board strives to be. Because as people of Winsted, we deserve that. We deserve folks who believe in Winsted, and I believe in Winsted, and I want to be that public servant for our community. I hope I can count on your support on November 2nd. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Sedlak. I'm seeking my 5th term as a selectman, having first been elected at a special election in 2013. I've just completed 56 years, my career in public and private education as an elementary school teacher, an elementary school principal, and a university supervisor of student teachers. I've spent my whole life as a resident of Winchester, and I have an adult history of volunteering. I've done lots of things that I've wanted to do, working with Cub Scouts, teaching CCD, being on a charter revision commission, being on the Board of Education for 8 years and its chairman for 6 years, being a member of Planning and Zoning. I hope I've volunteered excuse me. Volunteering is very important to me and my family, and I think you can see from that list I've just read. I'm proud of the accomplishments of this current board. We work well together, and you would do well to re-elect all of the incumbents up here. We've stopped the BOS fighting from years ago. We've got education going in the right direction. We've got a handle on blight. We've got, our roads have improved. Our ordinances are being updated. Our boards and commissions are welcoming new members, and we've maintained the mill rate on taxes. I'm pleased to be a member of this board. I look for your vote on November 2nd, and thank you.
Before we begin with the questioning, I'd like to remind the audience tonight about the mask mandate. You must wear the mask throughout the entire event, or you will be politely asked to leave. We will now begin with the questioning.
Hello, my name is Samantha Haas, and I am a senior at the Gilbert School. I will be asking some questions for tonight. The first question is, what are your party's top 3 priorities to better the town? This will be answered first by the Democrats, then Republicans.
You will now have a 1-minute discussion period.
Who goes first? Us? Do you want us to go? Okay. Okay, to answer the question about the top 3 priorities, of course, in town government, there's always a lot of complex issues moving around all at the same time. But one of our focuses always is, and has been, and will continue to be, is improving our roads and infrastructure, making sure that we have economic development to grow the grand list, and to make sure that we have affordable projects And keep in mind the ability of our property taxes to stay as low as we possibly can to provide the income to make sure these projects work. Thank you.
The Republican ticket also has 3 very notable top priorities. Number 1, we intend to grow the grand list as well. With more people and more businesses, more revenue for the town, meaning that not only does the town get more revenue, but we can lower taxes overall. It's truly the best of both worlds. And with that revenue, we can hopefully improve infrastructure to be even better. And on top of that, we also hope to support law enforcement. And we should fight back against this crime rise due to the national crime spike. Thank you.
Are there any rebuttals at this time?
I would just like to add that this board over the past few years, along with our town manager Geiger, brought the police department up to full force, also made sure that they had money in their budget for training, and we also made sure that they had newer police cars and vehicles to help them as they work each day.
We will now be moving on to the next question.
Hello, my name is Alex Cassidy, and I'm a senior at the Gilbert School. My first question tonight is, how does your party plan to attract new business and people to the town of Winchester? This will be answered first by the Republicans, then the Democrats.
You now have a 1-minute discussion time.
To market our town to potential developers beyond what we have done in the past while ensuring we're able to do easy to do business with. Our new entrepreneurs want the town to market itself to support future economic development and continued success. We need to maintain a vibrant, walkable Main Street and continue to work with utilities. We need to complete projects with tangible economic drivers like the extension of the Sue Grossman Stillwater Bridge to drive more customers downtown and Whiting Street road work to support our growing arts and culture areas. Additionally, offer assistance to new owners to transition their properties to sustainable businesses at the center of downtown.
To attract new businesses, you need a vibrant community that works together. 6, 8 years ago, that wasn't here. It was difficult to attract business. But over the past 6 years, we have done just that. We have instituted policies to bring more businesses within our town. We've seen stores open up. We've seen people from other communities come here to go to these businesses. And that is because our government has worked together to provide these policies of improvement, that has worked together to institute better planning and zonings. We have a new institution of permitting, easier way for businesses to get building permits to come to town. But the main factor of attracting anybody to this town is the unification, that they don't have a conflicting board. They don't have a conflicting environment. We work together.
Are there any rebuttals at this time?
I'm very excited on how we've been working with our new town manager and exploring all the new opportunities that are coming our way. First and foremost, we have 508 Main Street that a committee was formed to get input from all of the residents of the town on how to use it. That is now being out there for redevelopment, and hopefully we will be getting good feedback from potential developers showing interest in that. Additionally, we've also signed a private partnership, private-public partnership with 10 Bridge Street, which was recently sold, to help them with the redevelopment of that property as well. So I think you'll find, actually, in the most recent years, and also the sale of the property on Willow Street, that you have a board that is determined to work with any new developers to grow our grand list, develop their properties into sustainable businesses.
We will now move on to the next question.
Hello, my name is Jeb. I'm a junior in Miss Solterra's civics class. We know there has been no tax increase for 5 years, but we also know this cannot go on forever. If elected to the Board of Selectmen, how do you plan on keeping tax increases to a minimum? This will be answered first by the Democrats, then the Republicans.
You now have a 1-minute discussing period.
How to do it all with no tax increase. That's the annual question that we face, and as has been said, we've done an excellent job over the last 5 years holding the line. You have to watch your expenses. We have an excellent finance department. Unfortunately, our finance director is retiring, but I'm sure we'll carry on with the good work that he's done for the town. So we've had excellent expertise in terms of our finances. Besides watching expenses, which he helps us do, we have to plan carefully. And we know now that we have a big need to improve our roads far beyond what we've been able to do over the last several years. So we're looking very carefully at our roads and sidewalk and drainage projects that we can do and that we can afford. It could be a big bite if we go too fast. We've got to be very careful of that. We want to encourage growth. We're seeing developers taking a look at our town. We're encouraging new entrepreneurs, and hopefully we're going to grow the grand list in that particular way and getting new families into the town, building up our base and filling up our schools. Thank you.
For the last 5 years, no tax increases has been the responsible thing to do. The economy has not been the greatest at all through the times. Times were tight. Families were struggling, so we governed responsibly. How can we continue to do that? The number one task is to grow the grand list. We need to draw more businesses into town to spread the share of taxes throughout all town. Not just the lake, not just businesses, everybody pitches in. And that will help us to continue to operate the town without a tax increase. The other thing we need to do is to make sure that we govern responsibly by looking at, do we really need something, or is it just something that we want? If we need it, we need it. But if it's just a want, we need to act responsibly in that and look at the pluses and minuses of making that purchase. Thank you.
Are there any rebuttals at this time? We will move on to the next question.
Hello, my name is Caden Monroe. I'm a junior here. What is your party's position on amending the town charter to change the term length of selectmen from 2 years to 4 years? This will be answered first by Republicans, then Democrats.
You now have 1 minute to discuss. Republicans.
From experience, I was the chairman of the Charter Revision Commission and successfully changed two financial elements that were 20 years old. Making a charter change is hugely dramatic, and it's extremely important that you think about the ramifications of that change. But from being a first selectman myself when I ran in 2013, as a new politician, a new selectman, it takes a good year to figure out what's going on and to really understand how a government works, especially if you're coming from a commercial industry versus municipal government. 2 years is a really short time to understand the process and to be able to start a project to completion. Luckily, in my first year, we were able to get the steep grant for, 32 Lake Street, which is now Little Red Barn Brewers, and also pave X amount of roads. We think a 4-year term might be more productive between all of the selectmen working together. You're able to begin a project and see it through its entirety.
To piggyback on what Candace said, I agree. As a new selectman, it took me 2 years to figure out what was going on. There's just so much to learn. I was new to politics, and there were just so many different things to learn that I wasn't even comfortable making any decisions. But I think to keep democracy alive, the Board of Education has alternating terms that might work good for us, like 3 years on, 3 years with alternating positions. But I do think 2 years is short, and it might be advisable to go a little bit longer, so because of the learning process.
I'd like to add to that because people don't realize the scope of the work that the selectmen do besides their meetings. They also are the liaison to multiple boards and commissions. So it's not only understanding your role as the Board of Finance and how municipal government works and the whole budgeting process. It's also learning about the boards and commissions and how they interact and how they impact the town. So it really is an educational process for a while. And, perhaps expanding it to a 4-year rotating terms. Other towns do that. So they're staggered years that people start is a possibility.
We will now move on to the next question.
you think political parties are necessary or counterproductive in town government? This will be answered first by the Democrats, then the Republicans.
You now have 1 minute to discuss.
I'd just like to say that at this time of year, political parties get in the way. Like what we said on the flyer, we collaborate all year long.
So around this time of the year, this is like when partisan politics gets kind of nasty, right? Political parties are fighting back and forth, and it kind of brings the worst out of the political process, right? But at the heart of the political process is representing our community, right? And I think it's really important for municipal leaders to sometimes toss aside the D and R label, right? And embrace the W label, Winstead. It's like when I was going to school 10, 15 years ago, and I was a student at Pearson Middle School, I felt the effects of what it was like when our town government was going back and forth fighting along party lines. But, you know, because of the folks on this board putting those things aside over these last 8 years, our town's come so far in such a short amount of time because they collaborate, they work together, and they care. And at the end of the day, that's what's most important in municipal government, not party labels.
We believe that although parties are overall better than not having any parties, a D and an R is better because not only do you know the kind of ideology, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, that of the person you're voting for, you also have a better chance on how they're going to vote, and also when it comes to the W, I think that's a given. It should be a given that we all stand for the town. We all stand to work together. And it makes bipartisan solutions even all that better. Thank you.
Are there any rebuttals at this time? We'll now move on to the next question.
Towns are stronger when people come together. How would your party strengthen our strength of community in town, whether through planned events or town meetings? This will be answered first by the Republicans, then the Democrats.
Can you repeat that question?
Sorry. Towns are stronger when people come together. How would your party strengthen our sense of community in town, whether through planned events or town meetings? This will be answered first by the Republicans, then the Democrats.
You now have 1 minute to discuss. The discussion period is now concluded.
I don't know, I can't hear her. I don't know, Todd.
Towns are definitely stronger when everyone works together. And we can prove that by looking at the board now. We have 7 different people on the board, all from different perspectives. And we've all managed to come together, to work together, to do what's best for the town. You know, that's something that the Republican Party can do, as well as the Democratic Party can do, within their base. They can reach out to their base and they can say, hey, the things that keep us apart are not as great as the things that hold us together. If we work together with people of other perspectives and other points of view, the only thing that can happen is the town can win. The town can move forward if we all work together. And that's, you know, something that hopefully the town can learn from the board these last 6 years. You know, we're stronger when we work together. And that's something that is very important. And we've forgotten, it seems, if you watch the national news, we've forgotten to listen to each other. We've forgotten to talk. We are so dug in on our core values, it seems sometimes, that we don't even listen to the other side. And when that happens, you draw yourself farther apart. Talk, listen, that's how the towns and the nation can become stronger. Thank you.
I could say ditto, 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 ditto. That's the unfortunate thing about election season, as I call it, is this entire board has worked together so well, and now it comes election season and we're supposed to oppose each other or have some sort of ways to distinguish ourselves from one another, when this particular group, as you'll see our group always talk about, our values up here are pretty much the same. Our ideology is pretty much the same, because a road doesn't care what party you're from. Whether or not you have clean water at the lake we all swim in doesn't matter what party you come from. Whether the water pipes in the road get fixed so you have clean water in your house, it doesn't matter. So what this board has done, probably more so, because remember, I'm like the old lady here, I've been here for 9 terms. This board, if you go to an event, we all show up. It doesn't matter what event it is. Pick Memorial Day, pick Veterans Day, pick a parade. You'll see all of us there, because we all care and we all want to make sure that the community moves forward. So I think that we've been able to attract people to boards and commissions because it's not partisan based anymore. We want people that have the qualifications and skills. So we have done a lot to strengthen the town. We know that, I can't see your sign, I think it's like 10 seconds. But as was said earlier, you can go around Litchfield County now and people say good things about our town, and it's because of how we all have behaved. And so again, dittos for both ends.
Are there any rebuttals at this time? We will now move on to the next question.
Our question is, if your party becomes the majority party of the Board of Selectmen, how will you foster cooperation in town government? This will be answered first by the Democrats, then the Republicans.
You now have a 1-minute discussion period.
As you saw, the slip was handed to me. This is a fairly easy one to answer. For the last 6 years, the Democrats have had a supermajority, so-called, on the board, and this is the first time we're talking about it, I believe. It just hasn't been an issue. You've got 7 people who listen to each other, who respect each other, and act together. Sometimes the vote is not unanimous, but it usually is. So the concept of supermajority hasn't been an issue for us. We've had the majority, but we've never really had to use it or act upon it. It just hasn't been necessary.
Although this time around, we unfortunately have only 3 candidates, that doesn't mean we can't talk about if one day we do get the majority. It really goes down to listening to others, trying to make bipartisan motions passed, and just to listen to each other, and to put the town first, not a party. Thank you.
Are there any rebuttals at this time? We'll now move on to the next question.
Since it is a salaried position, do you think the town charter should be changed to appoint the town clerk instead of it being an elected position? This will be answered first by Republicans, then Democrats.
You now have a 1-minute discussion period.
Planning and zonings are elected positions. There's such a skill set that's required.
If you could please wait for them to finish
sorry.
discussing. It's all right. Thank you.
I apologize, you guys. Coming from a non-political background and actually not being aware of many of the elections or for the town clerk position, and now actually spending 6 to 8 years, I really don't really understand why that sort of a position, which takes 3 years to certify, is an elected position. In other towns, also planning and zoning has elected positions for a board and commission. I don't understand that. I think it should be a paid position. And so, so there is not we can consistently serve our customers and by all the transactions that are involved. It's a highly detailed position, and I'm sure that the people that are running for the position are qualified and are going to do everything they possibly can. And I know that the town manager and the Board of Selectmen will support that position during this transition, but I do feel that it would be something we should look at in the future as a paid position.
The position is very, very complex. It requires a legal background. It requires computer skills. It requires supervision. It needs to be taken out of politics. It should be, maybe we should consider it being a hired position.
Are there any rebuttals at this time? We'll move on to the next question.
Once the Hinsdale School project is complete, what should happen to the Bachelor School when it reverts back to the property of the town? This will be answered first by the Democrats, then the Republicans.
You now have a 1-minute discussing period.
Who's first? Democrats? The Bachelor School property represents a very unique piece of potential real estate development. Now, when it becomes vacant, our intent is to make sure that it is marketed in a large range of area so that we bring in the best possible developments and get a best return on selling that piece of land. It is a good, strong piece of land for a commercial development, but as we have seen over the years, it has deteriorated for school development. I think there's about 35, 34 acres up there, and if we look at our town as being the potential town where businesses that develop mines, that perhaps a software company, that's an ideal location for them. So we're exploring that. We're not waiting to the very end. And we're exploring how best to bring in that kind of a business that will also develop our grand list. Because if we are going to develop the continuation of our town, we are going to need additional tax money from something. And the grand list development brings that. So our best opportunity for the Bachelor School property is to develop it, sell it, and use it so it becomes a business location that hires and pays taxes.
As Jack said, the way that the town is going to recoup some of its money is going to be from the sale of Bachelor School once Hinsdale is completed and Hinsdale becomes the new school. The Bachelor School is in disrepair. It will take a lot of money to repair it and get it safe for a business to buy. So it may be in our best interest to take it down and then just sell the land, as that is where we will get the most money. And yes, it will add to our grand list. It'll add to our tax list. We need to make sure that that happens, to make sure that it's taxable property when it does sell. The town has too many of its own properties sitting vacant, so we need to make sure that once we take Bachelor, we do all the necessary work to make sure that it becomes part of the grand list and is sold.
I'd like to bring just a little bit of a reiteration of that. We have been working on this for several years. This entire board has been thinking about this, working with our town manager for that kind of development. This isn't something that just happens. And it is, again, because we have all talked about this, worked together on it, that we will come to a solution that will be the best for all of our taxpayers.
We will now move on to our next question.
Since the Board of Selectmen has a big say in the budget that is presented at the town meetings, what is your party's position on the budget for education? Would you support an increase? Why or why not? This will be answered first by the Republicans, then the Democrats.
Could you repeat it?
Sure.
Talking to the mic more.
Louder.
Since the Board of Selectmen has a big say in what the budget is presented at the town meetings, what is your party's position on the budget for education? Would you support an increase? Why or why not? This will be answered first by the Republicans, then the Democrats.
You now have a 1-minute discussion period. The discussion period has now concluded.
That's a difficult question. Do we support a budget increase for the Board of Education? Well, the Board of Education's budget is based on its enrollment and its negotiations with the Gilbert School. When presented to us, we have a bottom line amount of money that we are required to pay the ECS funding above and beyond that. So it's really driven by the enrollment and the budget that's presented to us that's negotiated with the Gilbert School. We always try to maintain a realistic budget and realistically look at all aspects of it. But most of those expenses are entirely out of our control. I don't know how else to respond to that.
The Board of Selectmen gets recommendations from the town manager. The town manager makes the proposal. We look at it. We have a public hearing on the education budget and on the town side. And then we as a board have to decide, what are our taxpayers able to afford? What have our grants been? What has our grant list growth been? And we look at all of that. And then we make a decision to send it to town meeting where you, the voters, and the community decide what the final numbers are. But in between, when we talk about education, one of the first things I'd like to recognize is that our current superintendent, when she came in after the state finished their work here, when she came in, she was incredibly efficient. She did so many things to streamline the work on her side in terms of staffing, where staff were deployed, how many staff there were, the special education department and all of the work that they did really made it much more efficient. So when we were looking at giving them support, this board has supported the town support for education line item over the years, building it up to last year to, I believe, $480,000. This past year, we gave around $500,000 in an increase to the school and gave an increase on the MBR. And this town and this board supported the renovations at Hinsdale School to the tune of $17 million. And of course, some of that is with state support. So we have supported education in our mind. And we have also made sure that we're affordable to the taxpayers.
Are there any rebuttals at this time?
One of the big things about the education budget is twofold. One, the entire board, stuck its neck out and pushed for the approval of the referendum for the Hinsdale renovation to build the school like new. The other thing that we need to remember is there are 10,660 people in Winchester. There's about 1,000 students. So we do need to take into account the other 8,500 people on if they can afford increases for the school. But the bottom line at the end of the day is it's what the citizens tell us. If they tell us to support education and they are willing to take a tax increase, we'll do what the people want. But the people have to be heard. And, it's their responsibility to let us know what they can afford and what they want to pay.
That concludes our questions for tonight. Each party now has a 2-minute closing statement, starting with the Democrats and ending with the Republicans.
No talking, right? Just do it.
Yeah, each party.
No, we talk to each other, or we just go?
You just go.
We just go? All right. First, as I haven't already done so, I'd like to thank everybody involved in making this night happen. We've been involved so many times with this, and the school and the students especially have been so professional. I always get excited to see my little notepads and everything, so thank you for having us. So now, as I sat here tonight and as we all talked, I've changed my closing statement a little bit from what I walked in for. But I'll start with this. We are now in our next step of our transformation without slowing down. Believing in Winstead 2.0 is the next push forward, because this is only the beginning for our small town. Voters now have a decision to make. It's not time to be complacent. We need you to come out to vote. We have run a positive campaign because we believe our town is in a positive place. We see progress and we see community, and we believe in Winstead. We recognize that negativity and partisan politics do not benefit our town. We are believers that working together is what breeds success. We have been a little disappointed when we saw some negative flyers recently come through in the mail. But however, you don't see that up here, and that's telling. One of the things that I believe that we all want to look for when you make your decision on November 2nd is to evaluate the candidates not for whether they have a certain position on a state or national issue, but whether they are a W. Do they attend local events? Do they volunteer and give back? Can they get along? Do they show up and do the work? I believe voters want us to continue to create an environment where people are taking chances in Winstead and leading the way instead of staying away. We believe voters know that working together is what makes our community special. We ask you for another 2 years with our core candidates, row A Democratic candidates, and to welcome our new candidates. We ask that you elect Melissa Bird as our next town clerk. What we have accomplished with a true bipartisan agenda has resulted in a sustainable culture and economic rejuvenation of our town. Re-electing the leadership on row A Democrats ensures continuing this positive, local, focused direction. Thank you all for your time this night, and we look forward to seeing you at the polls on November 2nd.
First, once again, I'd like to thank the Gilbert School for allowing us to have this debate tonight and to live stream it for those that could not be in attendance. It's good to see that everyone made it out tonight. There's still some fear of public gatherings, but it's important that we remember it is important to vote on November 2nd. Tonight, you've heard these 8 people up here, or 7 people and myself, all have the best interest of Winstead at heart. We may differ on some ideas, but at the end of the day, moving Winstead farther ahead is the goal. And that's where your job comes in. You need to research your candidates. You need to have your issues that you would like to focus on, and you need to vote with your core values. We all want Winsted safe. We want Winsted to be a town where any time of day or night you can walk down the street and be safe. We want to make sure that the tax burden is not too great, so we want businesses to come to town. We want to improve our infrastructure. We want more recreational activities for families. Is it a dog park? Is it a splash pad? Is it high-speed internet, throughout the town? Those are the things that we need to focus on moving forward. We've taken great strides already in improving Winsted, but now we need to take the next step. And we need to do that. We hope that you vote November 2nd, Row B. Vote the Republican team. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kohana Melmaki, and I'm a junior enrolled in the AP Government and Politics class that helped organize the debate. The members of Ms. Nardine's AP Government and Politics class and Ms. Soltaire's Civics class would like to thank the candidates for participating in this debate. In addition, we would also like to thank the audience for your presence and support of the town's government. Thank you also to Steve Hodges and Scott Minnerly and their students for all the technical help tonight. We hope you have benefited from the candidates' responses and enjoyed learning about them as much as we have. We also hope that we have helped highlight some of the issues facing the town of Winchester, its residents, its soon-to-be elected or re-elected leaders and policymakers. We encourage everyone to go out and vote for the candidates of their choice for the Board of Education and Board of Selectmen on November 2nd, Election Day. Thank you and have a good evening.